Before we begin, take a slow breath. Allow the day to soften at its edges, and let your thoughts settle, just as ancient roads once settled into the land. Tonight's story is not about battles or rulers shouting their names into history. It is about something quieter and far more enduring. Long before letters arrived in seconds, before signals crossed the sky unseen, messages traveled slowly, carried by footsteps, hooves, rivers, and patience. Across deserts, mountains, and vast plains, ancient postal routes connected empires, not with force, but with care. In this gentle journey, we will follow those forgotten paths, from the royal road of Persia to the structured calm of Rome, and onward to the vast relay networks of ancient China. You do not need to remember every detail. You do not need to stay awake. Simply listen. Let the rhythm of the road guide you. Let the steady movement of messages carry your thoughts away from the present moment. If you find yourself drifting into sleep, that is perfectly fine. The story will continue, patiently, just as these roads once did. Welcome to Go to Sleep, Historian. And now, let us begin. Before there were roads carefully measured in miles, before stone markers and relay stations appeared along the edges of empires, there existed a quieter world, one that moved at the pace of breath and memory. In this early world, messages did not travel along mapped paths. They lived instead inside people. Words were carried in the mind, entrusted to memory, shaped by voice and repetition. Communication was intimate, fragile, and deeply human. A message survived only as long as the person carrying it remembered to speak, and spoke it faithfully. Imagine a small settlement at the edge of a river. Smoke rises gently from evening fires. The day's work is finished, and people gather in a loose circle as shadows stretch across the ground. News travels slowly here. A birth in a nearby village, a warning of rising waters, a promise made between families. These messages do not hurry. They arrive when feet can carry them, when paths allow passage, when the seasons are kind. In such a world, distance is not measured in miles, but in effort. A journey of a few days can feel immense. Hills, forests, deserts, and rivers are not obstacles to overcome, but realities to respect. To carry a message across them is to accept uncertainty, weather, fatigue, and the simple unpredictability of life. Yet even in this stillness, the desire to connect beyond the immediate horizon already exists. From the earliest civilizations, people understood that survival depended on shared knowledge. When to plant, when to move, when danger approached. Information was as valuable as food or water, though far more delicate. It could be lost in a single forgotten word. So communities developed rituals to protect their messages. Important news was repeated aloud, sometimes sung or structured in rhythm, so it would not be altered. Messengers were chosen carefully. Not always the fastest, but the most reliable. Trust mattered more than speed. These early messengers traveled familiar paths at first. Foot-worn trails formed naturally between places of importance. Wells, markets, temples, seasonal gathering grounds. No one planned them. They emerged slowly, shaped by countless footsteps over generations. The land itself guided their curves, bending around obstacles, following contours that felt intuitive rather than engineered. As settlements grew larger, so too did the distances between decision and consequence. A leader's choice in one place might affect lives far away. The need to send instructions, warnings, and records became more pressing. Memory alone was no longer enough. The invention of writing changed everything, but not suddenly, and not everywhere at once. Clay tablets, carved stone, ink on silk or papyrus. Each medium required care, time, and protection. Written messages could endure longer than spoken ones, but they introduced new challenges. They needed to be physically transported. They could be damaged, lost, or misunderstood if they fell into unfamiliar hands. Still, writing offered something revolutionary. Consistency. A message could now remain unchanged across distance. Words could survive the journey intact, as long as the carrier survived too. And so, slowly, quietly, the role of the messenger began to shift. No longer just a storyteller or witness. The messenger became a vessel, a moving link between places that might never see one another. At first, there was no system. Each journey was arranged individually. A trusted traveler might be asked to carry a tablet along with their trade goods. A soldier returning home might be given sealed instructions. A priest might memorize a decree and deliver it along a pilgrimage route. These journeys were personal, shaped by relationships rather than infrastructure. They relied on hospitality, a place to rest, water to drink, a fire to warm tired hands. Along the way, messages often paused, waiting days or weeks before continuing onward. Yet even this informal movement of information began to change how people thought about distance. The world felt slightly smaller when news arrived from far away, even if it came late. Awareness expanded gently, like light at dawn. Over time, certain routes became favored, not because they were the shortest, but because they were the safest or the most predictable. A path that followed a river offered water and guidance. A road along a ridge avoided floods. Repetition turned these choices into habits, and habits into traditions. The earliest trade routes grew this way, carrying not only goods, but stories, beliefs, and news. A merchant's caravan moved slowly, stopping often, its progress measured in weeks or months. But wherever it stopped, information spread outward in quiet ripples. In these moments, communication was communal. A message delivered to one person was soon known by many. There was little privacy, but great shared awareness. The idea of sending something solely for one individual across great distance was still rare. As societies became more complex, leadership more centralized, this began to change. Decisions needed to remain controlled. Orders needed to reach specific people without alteration. The calm openness of shared news was no longer enough for growing states. And yet, the transition from informal messaging to organized systems did not arrive with noise or sudden disruption. It unfolded gently over generations. Each improvement was small. A designated messenger here, a resting place there, a promise of protection for those who carried official words. At first, these changes were barely noticeable. A traveler might observe that certain couriers seemed better received at settlements, offered fresh horses or food without payment. Others noticed that some paths were kept clearer than others, stones removed, brush cut back. No one yet spoke of postal routes. There were only paths, and people who walked them with purpose. What united these early efforts was not speed, but reliability. The goal was not to rush messages across the world, but to ensure they arrived at all. A delayed message was acceptable, a lost one was not. This philosophy shaped the earliest foundations of communication networks. They were built with patience, respect for geography, and an understanding of human limits. Roads followed the land, not the other way around. Systems adapted to seasons, to animals, to rest. Long before empires laid stone highways across continents, this quieter wisdom prevailed, and beneath it all was a simple truth. Connection mattered. Even when slow, even when fragile, the act of sending a message was an act of trust. Trust that someone would carry it, protect it, and deliver it faithfully. In this stillness, before the first great roads emerged, humanity was already practicing the art of reaching beyond itself. Each step taken by an early messenger echoed with intention, though the destination might lie far beyond sight. These whispers, carried by voice, memory, and fragile marks on clay, were the beginning. They prepared the world for what would come next. For soon, in a vast land beneath wide skies, an empire would decide that messages should move not by chance, but by design. And with that decision, the first great road would quietly begin to take shape. As the first light of morning spreads across the high plains of ancient Persia, the land awakens slowly. The sun rises, not with urgency, but with assurance, illuminating a world already vast beyond imagination. Mountains stretch quietly in the distance. Valleys breathe beneath thin mist. Rivers follow their ancient courses without interruption, as they have for countless generations. In this wide and varied landscape, something unprecedented is taking shape, not suddenly, but with deliberate calm. This is the world of the Achaemenid Empire. Atits. The empire extends farther than any before it, reaching from the Indus Valley in the east to the shores of the Aegean Sea in the west. It encompasses deserts, forests, fertile plains, and rugged mountains. Countless peoples live within its borders, speaking different languages, following different customs, worshipping different gods. And yet, this immense realm does not rely solely on force to remain whole. Instead, it depends on something quieter. Communication. To govern such distances requires more than armies. It requires understanding, awareness of distant provinces, timely knowledge of unrest or famine, clarity in law and taxation. Decisions made in one city must reach others not in years, but in weeks. The empire must listen as well as speak. This need shapes the Persian approach to rule. Rather than erasing local traditions, the Achaemenids allow diversity to remain. Satraps, regional governors, oversee provinces with relative autonomy while remaining accountable to the central authority. For this system to function, messages must flow steadily and reliably. Silence is dangerous in an empire of this size. And so, quietly, thoughtfully, the foundations of an organized communication network begin to form. At first, the empire builds upon what already exists. Old trade routes, footpaths, and caravan trails are observed, studied, and improved. Where merchants have traveled safely for generations, messengers can follow. Where water is available, rest can be found. Geography is treated not as an obstacle, but as a guide. This approach reflects a deeper Persian philosophy, one that values balance, order, and continuity. Roads are not forced straight through the land. They curve where needed, respecting terrain and climate. The goal is endurance, not spectacle. Under rulers such as Darius I, administration becomes more structured. Records are kept, taxes are standardized, laws are written and distributed. Each of these actions increases the importance of reliable delivery. A message delayed too long may arrive useless. A command misunderstood may cause unrest. Precision matters. Yet even as the empire becomes more organized, the rhythm of daily life remains unhurried. Couriers do not race wildly across the land. They travel with discipline, guided by routine rather than urgency. Their journeys are long, but carefully planned. It is during this time that the idea of designated routes begins to solidify. Certain paths are chosen not only because they connect important cities, but because they can be maintained. Stones are cleared, bridges reinforced, distances measured. These actions are subtle, easy to overlook, but transformative. For the first time, distance becomes predictable. A message sent from one city can be expected to arrive within a known span of days. Not exact, but dependable. This predictability changes how leaders think, how plans are made, how authority is exercised. Still, the system remains human at its core. Couriers are selected for reliability rather than strength alone. They must be observant, discreet, and resilient. They memorize procedures, learn landmarks, and understand the importance of their role. They are trusted not merely to carry words, but to protect them. Along their routes, small stations begin to appear, modest places, offering rest, water, and fresh animals when needed. These stations are not grand structures. Many are simple, practical, and quiet. Their purpose is efficiency, not comfort. Here a courier may pause briefly, exchange a tired horse for a rested one, drink water, and continue onward. The transition is smooth, almost ritualistic. There is little conversation. Time is respected. This is not yet the fully realized royal road, but it is its beginning. What distinguishes the Persian approach is not speed alone, but consistency. The system functions in all seasons, across varied terrain. It adapts to rain, heat, and cold without collapsing. It is resilient, designed to endure rather than impress. To the people living along these routes, the presence of couriers becomes familiar. They are part of the landscape, passing quietly through towns and villages. Their arrival is neither feared nor celebrated. It is expected. Sometimes they carry good news, sometimes warnings. Often, the contents remain unknown to those who glimpse them passing by. The message belongs to the empire, not the observer. Yet even unseen, these messages shape lives. A tax adjustment prevents hardship. A delayed order averts conflict. A report from a distant province leads to aid being sent before a crisis deepens. Communication becomes a tool of stability. Unlike later empires, that emphasize dominance, the Achaemenid system reflects restraint. Roads are maintained not only for military movement, but for governance. Messengers are protected by law. Interference with them is forbidden. This protection creates trust. Over time, people come to understand that these roads carry authority, but also order. They are not instruments of chaos. They bring predictability, and predictability brings peace. As dawn stretches across the empire each morning, couriers are already on the move. Their journeys begin before heat rises, before markets open, before cities fully wake. They pass through landscapes unchanged by their presence, leaving no mark beyond the messages they deliver. The empire breathes through these routes. Each message is a pulse, carrying information from the edges inward, and from the center outward again. Together, they create a rhythm, steady, measured, and enduring. In this way, the Achaemenid Empire does not shout across its vast territory. It whispers, and those whispers, carried carefully across land and time, prepare the way for something remarkable. A single road that will come to symbolize the quiet power of connection. In the next chapter, that road will emerge more clearly. The royal road will take form. The royal road does not begin with ceremony. There is no single morning when a ruler declares its existence. No moment marked by trumpets or stone inscriptions announcing its birth. Instead, it emerges gradually, almost quietly, shaped by countless practical decisions made over time. Each improvement seems small on its own, but together they form something extraordinary. This road is not merely a path from one city to another. It is a promise that distance can be understood, measured, and crossed with care, stretching eventually for more than 1,600 miles. The royal road connects the heart of the Achaemenid Empire with its farthest reaches, from the administrative centers of Mesopotamia to the western cities near the Aegean Sea. It threads through valleys, over rivers, and across open plains. Its course respects the land, following routes proven by generations of travelers before it. Where earlier paths were informal and shifting, the royal road introduces consistency. Distances are marked. Travel times are estimated. Stops are planned. For the first time, the empire treats movement itself as a matter worthy of organization, not to control the land, but to understand it. Walking along the royal road, one would notice its subtle differences from ordinary paths. The ground is more even. Stones are placed deliberately. Drainage channels guide rainwater away, preventing erosion. In difficult terrain, the road narrows, or bends, rather than forcing a straight line. Every choice reflects restraint and foresight. The road does not demand obedience from the landscape. It cooperates with it, along its length. Stations appear at regular intervals. These are not bustling towns, but quiet places of transition. A courtyard, a stable, a supply room, enough to support the rhythm of travel, nothing more. Here, a tired horse may be exchanged for a rested one. A courier might pause briefly, adjust his load, and continue onward. These moments of rest are brief, but essential. They transform a long journey into a sequence of manageable segments. No single courier must carry a message the entire distance. Instead, the message flows forward through a relay, steady, unbroken, and calm. This system reflects a deep understanding of human limits. Rather than pushing individuals to exhaustion, the royal road distributes effort evenly. Each participant contributes a small part, trusting others to do the same. The success of the journey depends not on exceptional strength, but on collective reliability. Herodotus, writing later, would famously describe this system with admiration, noting that neither snow nor rain nor heat nor gloom of night stayed these couriers from completing their appointed rounds. While poetic, the truth behind the words is quieter. The system works because it is humane. Couriers travel at a consistent pace. They are trained to observe, to remain alert, to protect their messages from harm. They carry authority, but they do not display it loudly. Their presence is marked by purpose rather than force. As messages move along the royal road, time itself seems to behave differently. What once took months can now be accomplished in weeks. Not instant, not hurried, but predictable. This predictability changes governance profoundly. Orders can be issued with confidence. Reports arrive. Well, they still matter. The empire becomes responsive rather than reactive. Yet the royal road does more than serve rulers. Merchants, diplomats, and travelers also benefit from its existence. Though the official postal system remains reserved for state business, the improved infrastructure naturally supports trade and movement. Markets flourish where routes intersect. Inns appear nearby. Knowledge spreads gently, carried alongside goods and people. Along the road, languages mingle. Customs are observed and sometimes shared. A traveler might learn of distant lands, not through conquest, but through conversation at a resting place. In this way, the Royal Road becomes a quiet conduit for culture. Security is carefully maintained. Guards patrol certain sections. Interference with couriers is punished severely. This protection ensures trust that messages will arrive, that travelers will be safe, that the road itself will endure. But even with protection, the road does not feel oppressive. It is not lined with monuments or banners. There is no demand for spectacle. Its strength lies in its reliability, in its steady presence across seasons and years. It exists to serve, not to impress. As one travels along the Royal Road, the landscape shifts gradually. Mountains give way to plains. Rivers appear and recede. Climate changes, yet the road remains consistent, adapting without interruption. This continuity creates a sense of calm assurance, a feeling that no matter how far one travels, the path remains dependable. For couriers, the journey becomes almost meditative. Each segment is familiar. Each station offers the same quiet routine. There is comfort in repetition, in knowing what comes next. The road teaches patience. It discourages haste. It rewards attentiveness. At night, couriers may travel beneath wide skies, guided by stars and moonlight. Fires flicker softly at stations. The world feels vast but connected. Each message carried feels small in weight, yet significant in purpose. The Royal Road also introduces an important shift in how power is expressed. Rather than relying solely on military presence, the empire extends its reach through communication. Authority arrives in the form of sealed instructions, written laws, measured reports. Control becomes administrative rather than coercive. This approach fosters stability. Provinces feel seen rather than ignored. Concerns can be communicated upward. Decisions return downward. The road enables dialogue, not just command. Even when orders are firm, they arrive with clarity. Over time, the Royal Road becomes more than infrastructure. It becomes an idea that distance can be bridged without chaos, that vast territories can remain connected through organization rather than fear, that the movement of words can be as powerful as the movement of armies. Centuries later, other empires will study this road. Some will imitate it, others will adapt it to their own needs, but all will recognize its quiet brilliance. For now, the Royal Road continues its steady work. Messages pass from hand to hand. Horses change beneath saddles. The land remains unchanged, even as the empire grows more cohesive with every delivery. And as the road settles into its role, something else begins to emerge. A deeper understanding of what communication can achieve when refined further. Beyond Persia, other civilizations are watching, learning, preparing to shape their own paths across the world. The Royal Road is alive not because of stone or soil, but because of rhythm. It breathes through the steady movement of horses, the quiet discipline of stations, and the unspoken coordination of countless individuals who rarely meet, yet depend upon one another completely. No single person oversees its daily function. Instead, it operates through trust, repetition, and habit. At the heart of this rhythm is the horse. Strong, enduring, and attentive. Horses make possible what human feet alone could not sustain. Selected for reliability rather than speed alone, they are accustomed to long distances and varied terrain. Each animal is trained to respond calmly to new riders, new environments, and the steady demands of the road. Along the Royal Road, horses do not belong to individuals. They belong to the system. At each station, a fresh animal waits, its coat brushed, its hooves checked, its posture relaxed yet alert. When a courier arrives, there is no flourish. The exchange is practiced and quiet. Saddlebags are transferred. A nod is given. The tired horse is led away to rest, while the rested one steps forward. The courier does not linger. This simplicity is intentional. Conversation is minimal. Time is respected. Every motion follows a pattern refined through experience. The station exists to support movement, not to interrupt it. Stations themselves are modest structures, built from local materials. They blend into their surroundings, rather than dominating them. Some are little more than walled courtyards with stables and a shaded area for water. Others include storage rooms for supplies, grain, tools, spare tack. Each station is placed at a distance that balances effort and endurance, far enough to make progress, close enough to prevent exhaustion. This spacing is one of the system's greatest strengths. It acknowledges human and animal limits, rather than denying them. For the courier, the journey becomes a sequence of short, focused tasks. Ride, arrive, exchange, continue. There is comfort in this repetition. The mind settles into the rhythm of movement. The road becomes familiar, even across great distances. Landmarks serve as gentle markers of progress. A bend in the river, a stand of trees, a distant ridge. Even danger, when it arises, is managed through preparation rather than force. Certain sections of the road are guarded. Others rely on the authority of the courier as the role itself. Interference is rare, discouraged by law and by shared understanding of the road's importance. Those who live near the road understand its purpose. They may not know the contents of the messages carried past their homes, but they recognize their significance. The road is not a threat. It is a stabilizing presence. At night, stations glow faintly with lamplight. Fires are kept low. The sounds are subdued. The shifting of animals, the quiet movement of caretakers, the soft exchange of routine instructions. Nothing here is hurried. For many caretakers, the station is their entire world. They rise early, tend to animals, maintain equipment, and prepare for arrivals that may come at any hour. Their work is repetitive, often unnoticed, yet essential. Without them, the system would falter. They understand this, and so they work with quiet pride. Precision extends beyond physical movement. Records are kept, distances measured, times estimated. Not exact to the moment, but accurate enough to ensure reliability. Over time, this data refines the system further, allowing adjustments to station placement, supply distribution, and scheduling. Mistakes are not punished harshly. They are corrected. This culture of learning is another reason the Royal Road endures. It adapts. When floods alter terrain, routes shift. When stations prove too distant, new ones are added. When seasons change, expectations adjust accordingly. The system listens to the land. For couriers, the work demands concentration rather than strength alone. They must remain alert to changes in weather, road conditions, and the health of their mount. They are trained to recognize signs of fatigue, injury, or distress in themselves and in their horses. Rest is not seen as weakness. It is part of the process. This philosophy stands in contrast to later eras that will glorify speed at any cost. Here, sustainability matters more than haste. A message that arrives intact tomorrow is better than one lost today. Each courier carries more than words. They carry responsibility. Sealed documents are protected carefully, sometimes wrapped in layers of cloth or leather. Unauthorized access is unthinkable. Trust is absolute. And yet, despite this seriousness, the work does not feel heavy. Many couriers describe a sense of calm that settles over them during long rides. The steady pace, the open landscape, the knowledge of purpose, all combine to create a quiet focus. The road becomes a companion, guiding rather than demanding. In moments between stations, there is time to observe. Birds lifting from fields, wind moving through grasses, clouds passing overhead. These details soften the journey, reminding the traveler of the world beyond the message. The Royal Road, for all its organization, never fully separates people from nature. It exists within it. This harmony is deliberate. Roads that fight the land break quickly. Roads that follow it endure. Persian engineers understand this instinctively. They choose routes that avoid extremes whenever possible, allowing the system to function year after year with minimal disruption. As seasons pass, the road becomes a constant in a changing world. Empires rise and fall. Leaders come and go. But the road continues its work, day after day, message after message. It teaches an important lesson. Great systems do not need to announce themselves loudly. They succeed through consistency, through quiet cooperation, through respect for people, for animals, for land. In the stillness of these stations, in the soft exchange of horses, in the unspoken understanding between strangers bound by routine, the royal road reveals its true nature. It is not merely a means of travel. It is a living practice of balance. And as this balance proves its value, other civilizations begin to notice. They see that power can move gently, that authority can arrive without force, that communication, when cared for, becomes the strongest thread holding an empire together. Beyond Persia, a new empire watches closely, and soon it will build upon this knowledge, shaping it into a system of its own. An empire is often imagined as something solid, walls of stone, armies in formation, banners rising above cities. Yet beneath these visible symbols lies something far more delicate. Information. Without it, power drifts blindly. Decisions arrive too late. Authority fractures into confusion. What truly holds a vast realm together is not strength alone, but awareness, the ability to listen, respond, and adapt. Along the royal road, this awareness moves quietly. Each message carried across the empire represents a moment of connection between distant places that may never see one another. A governor in a far province sends a report. An administrator records the movement of grain. A decree leaves the capital, folded carefully and sealed, destined for a town weeks away. These messages are not dramatic. They are precise. Lists, instructions, confirmations, and requests. The steady work of governance. Their tone is measured, their language formal, their purpose practical, and yet their impact is profound. Because of these messages, taxes are adjusted before hardship deepens. Because of these reports, unrest is addressed early rather than ignored. Because of these instructions, local traditions are respected while imperial law remains consistent. Communication does not eliminate conflict, but it softens its edges. In earlier eras, silence between center and periphery often led to misunderstanding. A distant region might feel abandoned. A ruler might assume obedience where none existed. By the time news traveled, the situation had already changed. The royal road alters this dynamic. Now, the empire hears itself. A problem in one place becomes known elsewhere before it grows too large. Responses are not immediate, but they are timely. This creates a sense of presence, a feeling that the empire is not distant, but attentive. For those living far from the capital, this matters deeply. To be heard is to belong. Local officials know that their reports will arrive. They know their efforts will be recognized. This knowledge encourages responsibility. Governance becomes a shared effort rather than a distant imposition. At the same time, authority flows outward with clarity. Laws arrive written, consistent, and unmistakable. Expectations are communicated rather than assumed. The road ensures that commands do not rely on rumor or memory. They arrive intact, carrying the weight of official seal and structure. This reduces ambiguity, and where ambiguity fades, stability grows. The royal road also allows the empire to respond to its environment. Natural disasters, crop failures, and unexpected events can be reported quickly enough to matter. Aid can be organized. Resources redirected. Even in times of difficulty, the system holds. What makes this remarkable is not speed alone, but trust. Messages are trusted to arrive unchanged. Couriers are trusted to deliver faithfully. Stations are trusted to function without constant oversight. This trust creates resilience. The system does not collapse under strain, because it is not dependent on constant control. Instead, it relies on shared understanding. Each participant, courier, caretaker, official, understands their role and its importance. This understanding does not need to be reinforced daily. It is woven into routine. Over time, the presence of reliable communication subtly reshapes the empire's identity. Power becomes less about coercion and more about coordination. Influence spreads through information rather than intimidation. The empire feels connected, not merely controlled. Even trade benefits indirectly. Though the Royal Road is officially reserved for state use, its existence improves infrastructure across the region. Safer routes encourage commerce. Predictable travel times support planning. Markets flourish near hubs of communication. Ideas travel as well. Alongside official messages, conversations occur. News is shared at stations. Stories pass between travelers. Cultural exchange happens quietly, without formal intention. The empire becomes not just a political entity, but a network of shared awareness. This network allows diversity to persist. Languages, customs, and beliefs remain distinct, yet connected. Differences are known rather than feared. The road does not erase local identity. It acknowledges it. Importantly, the Royal Road also introduces accountability. Reports travel both ways. Officials know they are visible. Actions taken in distant provinces are recorded and communicated. This visibility discourages corruption and neglect, not perfectly, but meaningfully. An official who abuses power may believe themselves unseen until a report arrives. In this way, communication becomes a gentle form of oversight. Not harsh, not immediate, but persistent. And persistence shapes behavior. The road also transforms time. Before, decisions unfolded slowly, often disconnected from current reality. Now, the empire operates within a shared temporal rhythm. Events are known while they still matter. Responses feel relevant rather than outdated. This shared sense of time binds distant regions together. Though days and nights differ, the flow of information synchronizes experience. The empire lives in a common present. From the perspective of the courier, this larger impact remains unseen. They ride, they deliver, they continue. Yet each delivery reinforces the invisible structure holding the empire together. Each successful journey affirms that connection is possible across vast distances. Over years, decades, generations, this reliability becomes expected. The idea that messages will arrive becomes part of daily assumption. Few stop to consider how remarkable this truly is. The Royal Road fades into the background of life, and this is its greatest success. Systems that demand attention often fail. Systems that work quietly endure. As the empire continues to function through these channels of communication, others begin to take notice. Observers from neighboring cultures see not just the road, but its effects. They recognize that information, when treated with care, becomes a source of stability rather than disruption. Soon, these ideas will travel beyond Persia. They will be adapted, reshaped, and refined by those who value order and efficiency above all else. An empire rising in the West is watching, and it will carry the lessons of the Royal Road forward, along roads of its own. When the focus of history shifts westward, it does so gradually. There is no sharp break between the world shaped by Persia and the one shaped by Rome. Ideas do not vanish when empires fade. They linger, traveling quietly through observation, adaptation, and necessity. Long before Rome builds its own vast systems of communication, it has already been learning. Rome is practical by nature, where others may admire an idea for its elegance. Rome asks whether it works, whether it can be repeated, whether it can be controlled. The Roman mind is drawn not to inspiration alone, but to structure. As Roman influence expands across the Mediterranean world, it encounters regions long shaped by earlier systems of movement and communication. Roads already exist. Trade routes already function. Messages already travel, sometimes slowly, sometimes unpredictably, but persistently. Rome does not dismiss these foundations. Instead, it studies them. The Persian Royal Road, though distant in geography, leaves a clear impression through intermediaries, travelers, and shared administrative experience. Rome recognizes the value of organized routes, protected messengers, and predictable delivery. These concepts align perfectly with Roman priorities: order, efficiency, and continuity. Yet Rome's approach will not be identical. Where Persia emphasizes balance and accommodation, Rome emphasizes standardization. Where Persian systems adapt gently to the land, Roman engineering seeks consistency. Both approaches are effective, but they reflect different philosophies. As Roman territories grow, the need for reliable communication becomes urgent. Governors must report back to the capital. Laws must be distributed. Military movements must be coordinated. The Republic, and later the Empire, cannot function without steady information. At first, communication remains informal. Messages are carried by soldiers, merchants, and trusted individuals. Roads are built primarily for military movement, though they naturally support travel of all kinds. These roads are remarkable, straight, durable, and meticulously engineered. But roads alone are not enough. Rome soon realizes that infrastructure without organization lacks precision. A message might travel, but when? Under what authority? With what priority? These questions lead to refinement. Gradually, Rome begins to formalize its approach. Messengers are designated. Permissions are defined. Routes are assigned. What emerges is not merely a network of roads, but a system layered upon them. This system draws upon earlier wisdom. The idea that communication should be protected, that messengers should be recognized and assisted, that information should move, predict. These principles, already proven elsewhere, are adapted to Roman needs. Rome's genius lies in synthesis. It takes what works, reshapes it, and embeds it deeply into its administrative structure. Nothing is left informal for long. Procedures are documented, responsibilities clarified, exceptions minimized. As a result, Roman communication becomes dependable, not perfect, but consistent. Roman roads stretch outward like spokes from a central hub. Milestones mark distances. Way stations appear at measured intervals. The landscape itself begins to reflect Roman order. To travel a Roman road is to feel guided. Even without a formal postal system yet in place, the groundwork is being laid. Couriers begin to rely on predictable stops. Officials come to expect regular reports. Time becomes something that can be planned around. This shift alters governance. Decisions become more deliberate. Planning extends farther into the future. The empire begins to function as a coordinated whole rather than a collection of distant territories. Rome also introduces a stronger sense of hierarchy. Messages are classified by importance. Certain communications are prioritized. Authority is clearly defined. This ensures that critical information moves without delay, while less urgent matters follow at a measured pace. The emphasis on hierarchy reflects Roman values. Order is preserved through clarity. Everyone knows their role. Deviations are discouraged. While this approach may feel rigid, it provides stability across vast distances. Unlike Persia, which often allows local variation, Rome prefers uniformity. Laws are standardized. Measurements fixed. Procedures replicated across provinces. This consistency extends to communication. Over time, Roman administrators come to rely on the steady arrival of information. Absence of news becomes notable. Silence prompts inquiry. The system creates expectations, and those expectations reinforce discipline. For ordinary people, the expansion of Roman roads and communication networks subtly reshapes daily life. Travel becomes safer. Trade becomes more reliable. News travels farther than before. Though most people will never use an official messenger service, they benefit indirectly from its existence. Markets thrive near road intersections. Towns grow around ways. Cultural exchange increases. The empire feels closer together, even as it expands. Roman soldiers, stationed far from home, send and receive messages that maintain connection. Officials correspond across great distances. The written word gains authority, permanence, and reach. All of this happens without spectacle. There are no grand announcements declaring a revolution in communication. Instead, the change is incremental. Each improvement builds upon the last. Each generation refines what the previous one established. By the time Rome formally establishes its own imperial postal system, the groundwork has long been in place. The idea has already been inherited. The lessons of earlier empires, especially Persia, have been absorbed and transformed. Communication is no longer an experiment. It is an expectation. The Roman world begins to breathe through its roads, much as Persia once did. But Rome will take the concept further. It will formalize it, expand it, and integrate it so deeply into its administration that it becomes inseparable from imperial power itself. In the next chapter, this evolution will become clear. We will step into the structure of Rome's official system. the Cursus Publicus, and explore how efficiency, discipline, and organization reshape the ancient world's movement of messages. By the time Rome formally establishes its imperial postal system, the idea of organized communication no longer feels experimental. It feels necessary. The empire has grown vast, its borders stretching across continents, climates, and cultures. Governors rule in distant provinces. Armies move along far-flung frontiers. Laws, taxes, and instructions must travel constantly between the center and the edges. To rely on informal couriers would invite uncertainty. Rome responds with structure. This structure becomes known as the Cursus Publicus, the public course, the official system by which imperial messages move across the Roman world. It is not simply a network of roads, but a carefully regulated institution woven directly into governance itself. Nothing within it is accidental. At its core, the Cursus Publicus is built upon Rome's greatest strength. Organization. Every element has a defined purpose. Every participant has a clear role. Communication is treated not as a convenience, but as an essential service of the state. Unlike earlier systems, this one operates under strict authority. Only those with official permission may use it. Documents travel under seal. Couriers carry proof of legitimacy. Way stations are instructed to assist authorized messengers and deny access to others. This exclusivity ensures efficiency. Messages are not delayed by unnecessary traffic. Resources are reserved for matters of importance. The system moves with quiet confidence, unburdened by improvisation. Along Roman roads, two types of stations support the Cursus Public. The first are mutations, simple relay points where horses or vehicles can be changed. These stations focus on speed and continuity. Couriers, exchanges, mounts, and departs, with minimal delay. The second are mansionees, larger stations offering rest, meals, and lodging. These serve longer journeys, allowing couriers and officials to recover before continuing. Though functional, they remain modest, reflecting Rome's preference for utility over comfort. Each station is carefully spaced. Distances are calculated to balance progress with endurance. Horses are not overworked. Couriers are expected to remain alert rather than exhausted. The system is designed for sustainability, not spectacle. Movement through the Cursus Publicus is steady rather than frantic. Messages travel day and night, but not recklessly. The rhythm is controlled, predictable. Time is respected. Delays are noted. Expectations are managed. This predictability is transformative. Officials across the empire come to rely on scheduled communication. Reports arrive regularly. Instructions follow known timelines. Silence becomes meaningful, prompting inquiry rather than confusion. The system creates a shared administrative tempo. At the center of this network stands the emperor, not as a distant figure, but as an active node within the flow of information. Orders move outward. Reports return inward. Decisions are shaped by awareness rather than assumption. Power, in this context, becomes informed. The Cursus Publicus also serves military needs. Dispatches move swiftly along frontier roads. Intelligence travels securely. Commanders coordinate movements across vast distances with a clarity previously impossible. Yet despite its association with authority, the system itself remains understated. There are no monuments celebrating its existence, no public ceremonies marking its function. Like all effective infrastructure, it works best when unnoticed. For the couriers, life within the Cursus Publicus demands discipline. They are selected carefully, trained to follow procedure precisely. Their work requires focus, endurance, and discretion. Personal interpretation is discouraged. Messages are delivered exactly as written. Trust is central. A courier does not question the content of a message. They do not alter its path. Their duty is movement, not meaning. In this separation of roles, the system preserves clarity. The physical experience of travel within the Cursus Publicus reflects Roman engineering philosophy. Roads are firm beneath the wheels. Milestones offer reassurance of progress. Bridges span rivers with measured confidence. Even in difficult terrain, the path feels intentional. This intentionality reduces uncertainty. Travelers know where they are, how far they have come, and what remains ahead. The road itself communicates stability. For those living near these routes, the presence of imperial messengers becomes part of everyday life. Couriers pass quietly through towns and countryside. Their arrival is neither celebrated nor feared. It is routine. This normalization of authority contributes to Rome's longevity. Power that arrives calmly is easier to accept than power that arrives violently. Communication becomes a form of governance that feels measured rather than imposed. Still, the Cursus Publicus is not without strain. Maintaining such a system requires resources. Horses must be fed, stations staffed, roads repaired. Over time, these demands grow heavier. Abuse of the system, unauthorized use, excessive demands begins to appear. Rome responds with regulation. Permissions are tightened. Oversight increases. The system adapts, attempting to preserve balance between access and sustainability. Even in adjustment, the emphasis remains on order. What distinguishes the Cursus Publicus from earlier systems is not merely scale, but integration. It is inseparable from Roman administration. Law, military, taxation, and governance all depend upon it. Remove the system, and the empire falters. Because of this integration, the Roman model becomes influential. Later civilizations will study it. Some will attempt to replicate it. Others will modify it to suit their own landscapes and values. But all will recognize its significance. The Cursus Publicus demonstrates that communication can be institutionalized without becoming chaotic. That movement can be regulated without becoming oppressive. That information, when treated as infrastructure, strengthens everything it touches. As centuries pass, the Roman world changes. Borders shift. Leadership evolves, yet the principles embodied in this system persist. Messages continue to move, quietly, reliably, holding the empire together one delivery at a time. And beyond Rome's western horizon, far to the east, another civilization has already been perfecting its own approach. Vast, patient, and deeply integrated with its culture. In the next chapter, the journey will turn eastward. We will follow the flow of communication into China, where the Yam system extends across immense distances with its own calm precision. Though the Cursus Publicus exists primarily for the needs of emperors, governors, and armies, its influence does not remain confined to halls of power. Like water flowing through carefully cut channels, communication reshapes the land around it, and over time, the presence of organized movement changes the lives of those who never touch an official seal or carry an imperial message. The Roman road is never truly silent, even when no courier passes. Its existence invites travel. Merchants follow its steady course. Farmers bring goods to nearby markets. Artisans move between towns. Pilgrims walk with measured steps, guided by milestones and familiar curves in the land. The official system may belong to the state, but the road belongs to everyone. This shared infrastructure gently transforms the economy. Trade becomes more predictable. Goods arrive with fewer delays. A merchant can plan journeys with confidence, knowing where to rest and how far the next town lies. Markets grow where routes intersect. Inns appear near stations, offering food and shelter to travelers not authorized to use imperial facilities. Over time, these places develop rhythms of their own. Morning brings carts and animals. Midday sees exchange and conversation. Evening settles into quiet rest. Information circulates alongside goods, news of prices, harvests, distant events. Though slower than official messages, this informal flow of knowledge becomes equally important. For many, this is how the wider world is first encountered. A farmer hears of unrest far away. A craftsman learns of new styles from another province. A traveler carries a story home that reshapes understanding of the empire's vastness. Communication expands awareness without urgency. The Roman road also alters how people experience distance. Journeys that once felt daunting become manageable. A trip between towns is no longer an unknown venture, but a familiar path with known stops. This predictability encourages movement, and movement encourages connection. Even those who never traveled benefit indirectly. Goods arrive more regularly. News feels less distant. The empire feels closer, more tangible. Authority is not only something spoken of, it passes through, quietly, in the form of travelers and trade, while the Cursus Publicus remains restricted. Its presence raises standards. Roads are better maintained. Security improves. Local officials understand the importance of keeping routes passable. The needs of imperial communication align with the needs of ordinary life. This alignment creates stability. In times of difficulty, such as poor harvests or regional shortages, information travels faster than before, though not instantaneous. Awareness arrives in time to matter. Adjustments can be made. Aid can be redirected. Even when relief is slow, it feels intentional rather than accidental. Markets reflect this growing interconnectedness. Prices begin to stabilize across regions. Scarcity in one place is offset by abundance in another. Trade networks stretch farther, supported by the confidence that roads provide. Though risks remain, uncertainty diminishes. Communication, even when indirect, reduces fear. The social fabric also shifts subtly. Encounters between cultures become more common. Languages mingle, customs are observed and sometimes adopted. The empire's diversity becomes visible in everyday life rather than abstract administration. These exchanges are not dramatic. They happen over meals, at roadside stops, during shared rests beneath open skies. They unfold slowly, without intention to change the world, and yet they do. The Roman road becomes a classroom without walls. For soldiers stationed far from home, the road provides connection. Letters arrive, carried privately rather than officially, but guided by the same infrastructure. Messages from family offer comfort. News from home grounds them in familiarity. Though unofficial, these exchanges rely on the same sense of reliability cultivated by the imperial system. Trust in the road extends beyond its formal use. Even artists and storytellers feel the change. Stories spread farther. Songs travel with merchants. Ideas migrate slowly but persistently. A tale heard in one province finds its way to another, altered slightly by each retelling but rooted in shared experience. This movement of culture is gentle and continuous. Importantly, the road also shapes time. People begin to think in terms of travel days rather than vague distance. Plans include arrival estimates, expectations adjust. Life becomes more scheduled, more deliberate. This does not mean hurried. Rather, it introduces rhythm. Days of travel are balanced by days of rest. Movement alternates with stillness. The road encourages patience as much as progress. Yet the benefits of this system are not evenly distributed. Rural regions far from major routes still experience isolation. Not all voices travel equally. Authority remains centralized. The presence of roads does not eliminate inequality, but it softens edges. Connection, even partial, reduces extremes. Awareness spreads gradually. Change arrives slowly, but it arrives. As centuries pass, the Roman road becomes a quiet constant, so familiar that its impact is rarely questioned. People assume movement is possible, that messages will arrive, that goods will travel. This assumption marks a profound shift. Communication has moved from miracle to expectation, and expectation shapes societies more deeply than wonders. Beyond Rome's borders, observers notice this transformation. They see how roads and systems influence daily life, not just governance. They recognize that communication, when reliably, reshapes economies and cultures as much as politics. Far to the east, across vast landscapes and ancient traditions, another civilization has already embraced this truth in its own way. There, communication stretches across deserts, mountains, and rivers with patience and scale unlike anything Rome has known. In the next chapter, the journey turns fully eastward. We will follow the calm, enduring pathways of China's Yam system, where messages move across immense distances guided by rhythm, ritual, and imperial continuity. The ancient world is not divided as sharply as modern maps might suggest. Ideas do not stop at borders. Practices do not remain contained within empires. Long before the age of global exploration, knowledge travels quietly, carried by traders, diplomats, pilgrims, and wandering scholars. Roads, once formed, invite imitation. As Rome refines its systems in the West, the East has already been cultivating its own approaches to communication, shaped by different landscapes, philosophies, and scales of governance. The movement of messages across Eurasia is not a single story, but many parallel ones, unfolding patiently over centuries. Turning eastward is not a departure, but a continuation. Across the vast lands between the Mediterranean and East Asia, routes stretch like threads woven into the earth. Some are well-defined. Others are little more than remembered paths across desert or steppe. Together, they form a network of movement far older than any one empire. Caravans move slowly along these routes, carting silk, spices, metals, and stories. With them travel ideas, methods of administration, concepts of authority, and approaches to communication. Nothing arise unchanged. Each culture adapts what it receives, shaping it to local needs. In this slow exchange, similarities begin to appear. Across distant civilizations, leaders face the same challenge: how to govern vast territories without constant force, how to remain informed, how to ensure decisions reach the places where they matter. The answers differ in detail, but not in spirit. In many regions, relay systems emerge independently. Horses are exchanged. Stations provide rest. Messengers are protected. Distance is broken into manageable segments. These solutions arise not through imitation alone, but through necessity. The land itself teaches the lesson. Long journeys demand planning. Human endurance has a limit. Information must move steadily rather than sporadically. These truths are universal. Yet while Rome builds upon roads and standardization, the East faces a different scale. China's geography is immense. Mountains, rivers, deserts, and plains stretch across thousands of miles. Climatic extremes demand flexibility. Seasons reshape routes. What works in one region may fail in another. To govern such a land requires patience. It also requires a deep integration of communication into the structure of society itself. Chinese administrative thought emphasizes harmony, continuity, and order. Systems are expected to endure across generations. Stability is valued over rapid change. These values shape how communication networks develop. Rather than imposing a single rigid model, Chinese systems adapt to regional variation. Multiple modes of transport coexist: horses, carts, boats, and foot messengers. Routes follow rivers as often as roads. Waterways become as important as land paths. This flexibility allows communication to persist despite environmental challenges. Turning east also reveals a different relationship between center and periphery. In Roman administration, authority radiates outward from a central hub. In China, governance often emphasizes balance between center and regions. Communication supports this balance, enabling dialogue as well as command. Messages do not simply announce decisions. They carry reports, petitions, and records. Information flows in both directions with regularity. This mutual awareness strengthens cohesion. The movement of messages in the East is often slower than in Rome, but it is consistent. Speed is less important than reliability. A message that arrives late but intact is preferable to one that arrives quickly but incomplete. This philosophy echoes the quiet wisdom seen earlier along the Royal Road. Across the Eurasian landmass, these systems coexist without direct competition. Each serves its own cultural context. Each reflects local values. What unites them is intention. Communication is no longer accidental. It is designed. This design reshapes how people understand distance. The world feels more connected, even if travel remains slow. Awareness extends farther. Curiosity grows. In marketplaces along eastern routes, travelers hear of distant capitals they will never see. Names of emperors, cities, and provinces circulate through conversation. The imagination stretches alongside geography, even without formal contact. Empires sense one another's presence. Knowledge of other systems inspires reflection. What works? What endures? What fails? These questions guide adaptation. Over time, communication networks become markers of civilization itself. To be organized is to communicate. To govern is to listen and respond. This realization sets the stage for one of the most extensive and enduring postal systems in ancient history. In China, this system will come to be known as the Yam. It will span thousands of miles, operate across dynasties, and integrate deeply into imperial life. Its scale will rival, and in some ways surpass, anything seen before. Yet like the systems that preceded it, it will function quietly. No grand proclamations. Just steady movement. In the next chapter, we will step fully into this world, exploring the Yam system's structure, its rhythms, and the calm ingenuity that allowed messages to cross one of the largest territories ever governed. Across the immense landscapes of ancient China, communication unfolds with patience rather than haste. Here, distance is not treated as an enemy to be conquered, but as a reality to be understood. Mountains rise slowly from plains. Rivers widen and narrow according to season. Deserts stretch outward with quiet persistence. To move messages across such land requires not only planning, but humility. The Chinese response to this challenge is neither rigid nor hurried. It is adaptive. Over centuries, successive dynasties refine a system of communication that becomes known as the Yam, a vast network of relay stations and routes designed to serve the needs of governance, record-keeping, and imperial cohesion. Though its structure evolves over time, its underlying philosophy remains constant: stability through continuity. Unlike systems built primarily upon roads, the Yam embraces multiple pathways. Land routes coexist with river networks. Horses share responsibility with carts, boats, and foot messengers. Where terrain resists, speed, patience prevails. The system adjusts to geography rather than reshaping it entirely. This flexibility allows the Yam to endure across generations. At its height, particularly under dynasties such as the Yuan, the system stretches across thousands of miles. Stations appear at regular intervals, sometimes closer together in difficult terrain, farther apart where travel is easier. Each station serves a specific purpose, tailored to local conditions. Some provide fresh horses, others offer boats for river crossings. Many serve as record points, where documents are logged and progress noted. Nothing is left to chance, yet the atmosphere of these stations remains calm. They are not bustling hubs, but orderly places of transition. Couriers arrive quietly, present their credentials, and continue onward. Movement is continuous, but never chaotic. The Yam is deeply integrated into imperial administration. Officials rely on it to send reports, census records, tax information, and legal instructions. Petitions from distant regions travel back toward the center, carrying the voices of local communities. Communication flows in both directions, reinforcing balance between authority and accountability. This two-way movement is essential. An empire of such scale cannot function through command alone. It must listen. The Yam enables this listening, allowing information to surface gradually rather than erupt suddenly. Time within the Yam moves differently. Messages are not rushed. Expectations are shaped by realism rather than urgency. A delivery that takes weeks is acceptable if it arrives reliably. This patience reduces strain on people and animals alike. Horses are rested carefully. Couriers are trained to pace themselves. Seasonal changes are anticipated. Routes shift when rivers flood or mountain passes. Closer, the system breathes with the land. For couriers, the journey is long but structured. Each segment is familiar. Each station offers routine. There is reassurance in knowing where rest will come, where assistance awaits. Like their counterparts in Persia and Rome, Chinese couriers carry authority quietly. Their role is respected, protected by law and custom. Interference is rare, discouraged by shared understanding of the system's importance. Along these routes, the empire maintains its memory. Written records move steadily from place to place. Archives grow. History is preserved not only through chronicles, but through the very act of communication. The M becomes a living thread connecting past decisions with present realities. This emphasis on record-keeping distinguishes the Chinese system. Communication is not only about instruction, but documentation. Events are noted. Conditions are reported. Patterns emerge over time. Governance becomes informed by accumulated knowledge rather than isolated moments. For those living near Yam routes, the presence of couriers becomes part of everyday life. They pass quietly through villages and towns, changing mounts, boarding boats, or continuing on foot. Their arrival is expected, their purpose understood. The road, or river, does not belong to spectacle. It belongs to continuity. Trade benefits indirectly. Though the Yam remains an official system, its infrastructure improves movement for others. Markets grow near stations. Travel becomes safer. Awareness spreads. Cultural exchange follows. Ideas, customs, and innovations move gradually across regions. Though slow, this movement is persistent. Over time, it shapes a shared sense of identity across vast distances. The Yam's endurance across dynasties speaks to its design. While rulers change and borders shift, the need for communication remains constant. Each dynasty inherits the system, adjusts it, and passes it on. The network becomes part of the state's foundation rather than a temporary tool. This continuity fosters trust. Officials assume messages will arrive. Communities expect to be heard. The system's reliability becomes woven into social expectation. Compared to Roman efficiency, the Yam may appear slower. Compared to Persian elegance, it may appear broader, yet its strength lies in scale and adaptability. It does not seek perfection. It seeks persistence. Through storms, seasons, and centuries, messages continue to move. The empire remains informed, not because it demands speed, but because it honors rhythm. As night falls across distant provinces, couriers rest at stations beneath lantern light. Rivers reflect stars. Mountains stand unmoving. Somewhere far away, another courier begins their journey. The message advances, not quickly, but surely. And in this steady movement, the Yam reveals a universal truth shared by all great communication systems. Connection is strongest when it respects the world it moves through. In the next chapter, we will step back from individual empires and examine the shared ingenuity that unites them. The rise of relay systems across ancient civilizations, and the quiet brilliance hidden within their forgotten infrastructure. Across ancient empires, messages do more than travel. They remain. In China, this idea is understood deeply. Communication is not only a matter of movement, but of memory. Every report sent, every register updated, every census recorded becomes part of a living archive. A quiet accumulation of knowledge that allows an empire to remember itself. The M system serves this purpose patiently. Each message that moves along its routes is both present and future. It addresses an immediate concern, yet also contributes to a broader understanding of the land, the people, and the rhythms of governance. Over time, these records form a continuous thread stretching across generations. This continuity creates unity, not through uniformity, but through shared awareness. In distant provinces, officials know that their words will be preserved. Reports of harvests, weather, population changes, and local conditions are not merely sent and forgotten. They are copied, stored, and referenced. Decisions are informed by what has come before. This practice reduces uncertainty. Governance becomes less reactive, more reflective. Patterns emerge slowly, allowing administrators to understand cycles rather than isolated events. A flood is no longer just a disaster. It is part of a recurring rhythm that can be anticipated. A migration is not a surprise, but a process observed over time. The Yam makes this observation possible. At relay stations, records are logged with care. Arrival times are noted. Documents are handled with respect. The process is methodical, almost ceremonial in its consistency. There is no hurry here, only precision. This calm approach reflects a broader cultural philosophy. Chinese administrative thought values balance, order, and harmony. Systems are designed not to impress, but to endure. Communication must be reliable enough to support memory, and memory must be detailed enough to guide action. Together, they form stability. Messages flowing along the Yam do not shout, they inform. This distinction matters. Empires that rely on force alone must constantly reassert control. Empires that rely on knowledge can adjust gently. The Yam supports this gentler form of authority, one that listens as much as it commands. Unity grows from recognition. When distant regions know they are seen, that their conditions are recorded and understood, they feel connected to the whole. Even when change is slow, the knowledge that voices travel creates patience. Time becomes shared. Though provinces differ in climate and custom, the flow of information synchronizes experience. Events are known beyond their place of origin. Awareness spreads gradually, like light moving across a landscape. This shared awareness reduces isolation. For scholars and scribes, the Yam is invaluable. Records gathered from across the empire allow for comparison, study, and refinement of policy. Knowledge accumulates not through sudden revelation, but through careful collection. History itself becomes possible on a grand scale. Chronicles rely on communication. Without steady delivery of records, the past fragments. With it, memory endures. The Yam ensures that the empire remembers where it has been, not just where it is going. This emphasis on documentation also shapes identity. People understand themselves as part of a continuous story. Their lives, though ordinary, contribute to something larger. A census entry, a tax record, a petition. Each is a quiet acknowledgement of existence. Unity does not require sameness. The Yam does not erase regional differences. Instead, it preserves them within a larger framework. Diversity is recorded, not suppressed. Variation becomes known rather than feared. This knowledge allows the empire to adapt. Policies shift gradually in response to accumulated information. Resources are allocated with greater awareness. Mistakes are corrected not through punishment, but through adjustment. Communication becomes feedback, and feedback sustains systems longer than force ever could. For the couriers themselves, this larger purpose may remain abstract. They carry documents, not philosophy, yet their daily routines support this vast structure of memory. Each completed journey strengthens the archive. Each successful delivery adds clarity to the empire's understanding of itself. Their work is repetitive, but meaningful. In quiet moments at stations, as lanterns flicker and records are updated, there's a sense of continuity. Generations of couriers have done the same tasks. Generations more will follow. This repetition creates reassurance. The world changes, but the system remains. Unity is also reinforced through ritual. Procedures are followed carefully. Credentials are presented. Logs are maintained. These rituals create shared expectations across distance. An official in one province recognizes the same forms and processes as an official in another. This familiarity builds trust. Even when regions are far apart, the language of administration feels the same. The empire speaks to itself through these shared practices. Over centuries, this communication culture becomes ingrained. New dynasties inherit not only territory, but systems of memory. They rely on the Yam to maintain continuity, even as leadership changes. In this way, communication outlives power. While emperors come and go, the flow of information persists. The archive grows, memory deepens. The Yam teaches a quiet lesson. Unity is not created through constant assertion, but through sustained awareness. To know is to connect. To record is to remember. To remember is to endure. As the chapter closes, the vastness of ancient communication networks becomes clearer. Different civilizations approach the challenge in their own ways, yet all arrive at similar truths. Messages matter, systems endure, and the quiet work of connection shapes the course of history more gently and more powerfully than any single decree. In the next chapter, we will step back and examine this shared wisdom directly. We will explore the rise of relay systems across civilizations, the forgotten infrastructure that supported them, and the human ingenuity that allowed messages to cross the ancient world with patience and purpose. Across ancient civilizations, separated by geography and culture, a shared insight quietly emerges. No single traveler should bear the entire distance alone. This understanding, simple, practical, and deeply humane, lies at the heart of relay systems. Though developed independently in different regions, the principle appears again and again. Break long journeys into smaller, manageable parts, and connection becomes sustainable. Relay thinking does not seek speed for its own sake. It seeks continuity. Rather than demanding exceptional endurance from individuals, it distributes effort across many. Each person contributes briefly, trusting others to do the same. The message, not the messenger, completes the journey. This approach reflects a broader wisdom. Human systems endure longest when they respect limits. Empires that recognize this truth build structures that last. Those that ignore it often burn brightly, then fade. From Persia's royal road to Rome's Cursus, from China's Yam to countless lesser known networks, relay thinking becomes a quiet foundation of governance. Each system adapts the idea to local conditions. In arid regions, stations cluster around water sources. In mountainous areas, distances shorten. Along rivers, boats replace horses. The relay is not a rigid formula, but a flexible philosophy. Infrastructure grows around it. Rest stops appear. Stables are built. Signals are developed to guide travelers, markers, flags, beacons. Some routes use visual cues during daylight. Others rely on fires at night. These aids reduce uncertainty and fatigue. Security also evolves. Relay stations are often protected by law or custom. Interfering with a messenger is treated as a serious offense. This protection reinforces trust, ensuring that each link in the chain remains intact. The result is resilience. If one courier falters, another continues. If weather delays a segment, the system adjusts. No single failure collapses the whole. The message flows onward, slower perhaps, but unbroken. This resilience distinguishes relay systems from individual journeys. An individual may tire, fall ill, or lose their way. A relay absorbs these challenges. It anticipates them. It accepts imperfection and plans around it. In doing so, it reflects a mature understanding of organization. Forgotten infrastructure plays a crucial role in this success. Often overlooked, these elements are as important as roads themselves. Simple shelters provide shade and rest. Wells and cisterns offer water. Storehouses hold feed and supplies. Without these quiet supports, the system would fail. These structures are rarely celebrated. They do not bear inscriptions or monuments. They exist to be used, not admired. Their anonymity is their strength. Human ingenuity shines here. Engineers and administrators observe patterns. They notice where travelers struggle. They adjust station placement. They refine schedules. Over time, these small changes accumulate into remarkable efficiency. Yet efficiency is never allowed to override care. Relay systems are designed with compassion. They recognize that messengers are people, not tools. Rest is built into the process. Safety is prioritized. Routine replaces urgency. This humane approach fosters loyalty. Couriers trust the system. They know support awaits them. This trust encourages diligence. Each participant performs their role with confidence rather than fear. Relay thinking also influences broader culture. The idea that progress occurs through cooperation rather than individual heroism spreads. Achievements are seen as collective efforts. This perspective aligns naturally with governance, trade, and social organization. In many ways, relay systems mirror life itself. No single generation carries all knowledge. Ideas pass from one mind to another. Traditions persist through shared effort. Continuity depends on participation, not dominance. In the ancient world, relay networks embody this truth physically. Messages travel across landscapes through cooperation. Each station is a handshake between strangers separated by time and distance. The system depends on mutual respect and shared purpose. These systems also encourage observation. Because movement is segmented, information is gathered along the way. Couriers notice changes, stations record conditions. Patterns emerge. The relay becomes not only a conduit, but a sensor. Aware of the world it traverses, this awareness strengthens governance. Administrators receive not just messages, but context. Reports include observations. The empire understands itself more fully. despite differences in scale and culture. The success of relay systems follows the same principles everywhere: respect for limits, consistency over speed, trust over force, adaptation over rigidity. These principles allow communication to function quietly and effectively. As centuries pass, relay thinking spreads beyond official systems. Trade networks adopt it. Religious pilgrimages rely on it. Even informal travelers benefit from its infrastructure. The world becomes more navigable. Distance remains real, but no longer insurmountable. By the time later societies inherit these ideas, they do so almost unconsciously. Relay thinking feels natural. It becomes the default approach to movement and communication. Few remember its origins. Yet beneath modern systems, from mail delivery to digital networks, the same logic persists. Data pockets, like ancient messages, travel in segments. Responsibility is distributed. Failure is absorbed. The ancient relay lives on. In the next chapter, we will return to the individuals who made these systems work. The couriers themselves. We will explore their daily lives, their risks, their quiet endurance, and the human experience behind these vast networks of connection. Behind every road, every relay station, and every carefully recorded message, there is a person. Systems may be designed with precision, but it is human presence that allows them to breathe. Across ancient empires, couriers move quietly through landscapes vast and varied, their lives shaped by routine, responsibility, and endurance, rather than recognition. They are rarely named. History remembers roads and rulers, but not often the individuals who carried words between them. Yet without these couriers, communication would remain an idea rather than a reality. Their days begin early. Before markets stir and cities fully awaken, couriers prepare for the road. Equipment is checked, documents secured, animals assessed with practiced eyes. There is no ceremony, only habit. Each journey begins the same way. Step forward, mount up, move on. Move on. The courier's world is measured in distances between stations. They think in segments rather than destinations. The next relay is the goal. After that, another takes its place. This way of thinking preserves focus and calm. Long distances become manageable when broken into parts. Travel brings solitude. Hours pass with little company beyond the rhythm of movement in the surrounding land. Wind moves through grasses. Hooves strike stone or earth. Rivers reflect sky. These sights become familiar companions. In this solitude, many couriers develop a quiet attentiveness. They notice small changes, weather shifts, animal behavior, the condition of the road. Awareness becomes a skill, cultivated through repetition. Danger exists, but it is rarely dramatic. Weather turns unexpectedly. Terrain becomes difficult. Animals tire. Occasionally, illness or injury forces delay. These risks are accepted as part of the work, approached with preparation rather than fear. Couriers rely on routine to manage uncertainty. Stations provide reassurance, a place to rest, water, shelter, familiar procedures. Each arrival confirms that the system still holds. For many couriers, these stations feel like temporary homes. Though brief, the pauses offer human contact, a nod of recognition, a shared task, a quiet exchange. Words are few. Understanding is shared. This community, spread across distance, is bound by purpose. The work demands discipline. Couriers do not choose routes or alter messages. They follow instructions precisely. Their role is defined not by decision-making, but by execution. This clarity removes doubt. Responsibility is heavy, but focused. They carry authority without power. Though entrusted with important messages, couriers do not command. They observe. They deliver. Their significance lies in service rather than status. This humility shapes their identity. Many couriers come from modest backgrounds. Their work offers stability, not glory. Over time, the rhythm of travel becomes part of who they are. The road feels more familiar than any single town. Home becomes a series of places rather than one. Despite this, Many couriers maintain strong ties to family and community. Letters carried unofficially. News shared at stops. Stories gathered along the way and brought back during periods of rest. There lies bridge. Worlds. Physical endurance matters, but mental steadiness matters more. Long journeys require patience. Delays must be accepted. The pace cannot be rushed. Couriers learn to surrender urgency. This surrender brings calm. In ancient systems that value sustainability, couriers are encouraged to rest when needed. Exhaustion is not celebrated, it is avoided. This approach preserves lives and maintains continuity. Trust flows both ways. The system trusts the courier to deliver faithfully. The courier trusts the system to support them. This mutual reliance creates resilience. When a courier falters, another continues. The message moves on. Over years of service, couriers witness the changing world. They see seasons return, towns grow, roads improve. Empires shift, yet the work remains consistent. Messages still need to move. This constancy offers perspective. While politics change, connection endures. In moments of rest, couriers reflect quietly. They may not know the full impact of the messages they carry, but they sense their importance. They understand that silence between places would bring confusion. Their work prevents that silence. In times of crisis, couriers become especially vital. Reports of unrest, natural disasters, or urgent decisions move through their hands. Though they remain emotionally distant from content, the gravity is felt. Still, they continue. There is dignity in this steadiness. Not the loud dignity of triumph, but the quiet dignity of reliability, of being counted on, of fulfilling a role essential to many, though visible to few. Couriers age. Some move into station work, training others, maintaining animals, overseeing routines. Knowledge passes through observation rather than instruction. New couriers learn by watching, repeating, refining. The system renews itself. This cycle, movement, rest, renewal, mirrors the relay principle itself. Individuals come and go. The network persists. Through their labor, couriers teach an enduring lesson. Connection is not created by extraordinary acts, but by ordinary ones repeated with care. Each ride matters. Each delivery matters. Each person matters. As night settles across ancient roads, couriers rest beneath open skies or sheltered roofs. Tomorrow, another journey begins. Somewhere else, another courier takes over. The message continues. In this quiet continuity, the ancient world remains connected. And as these systems gradually fade, replaced by new technologies and structures, their legacy does not disappear. It transforms. In the final chapter, we will reflect on that legacy, how ancient postal routes shaped modern communication, and what their gentle rhythms can still teach us today. As the ancient roads grow quiet and the footsteps of couriers fade into memory, their work does not end. It continues, not in stone or dust, but in the patterns of how the world remains connected. The great postal routes of antiquity were never meant to last forever. Roads cracked, stations emptied, empires changed their names or vanished altogether, and yet something essential endured. A way of thinking. A rhythm of movement, a belief that distance could be crossed, not through force, but through care. The gentle roads taught humanity how to stay in touch with itself. Long before wires, signals, or screens, these systems proved that communication was not a luxury, but a foundation. Governance depended upon it. Trade relied upon it. Culture expanded because of it. When messages moved steadily, societies breathed more easily. The lesson was simple, yet profound. Connection creates stability. As centuries passed, new empires inherited the land once shaped by Persian riders, Roman officials, and Chinese couriers. Many did not fully understand the origins of the routes they used. but they sensed their value. Roads were repaired, relay stations revived, messengers appointed once again. Each generation adapted what remained. Medieval kingdoms established courier services modeled on ancient examples. Religious orders relied on trusted messengers to maintain unity across distant communities. Merchant guilds organized relay routes to protect trade and information. The principles persisted, even as names changed. Consistency mattered more than credit. Eventually, mechanical innovation arrived. Horses were replaced by wheels, wheels by engines. Messages that once took weeks began to take days, then hours, then moments. The pace of communication accelerated, but its structure remained familiar. Information still traveled in segments. Responsibility was still distributed. Failure was still absorbed by systems rather than individuals. The ancient relay lived on, hidden beneath modern speed. Even today, beneath digital networks and invisible signals, the same logic endures. Data moves in packets. Routes are optimized. Redundancy ensures reliability. No single path carries everything. The system survives because it is shared. What ancient couriers practiced instinctively, modern systems replicate mathematically, yet something has been lost in the transition. Speed has replaced rhythm. Urgency has replaced patience. Where ancient systems accepted delay as natural, modern ones resist it. Silence feels uncomfortable. Waiting feels like failure. The calm assurance of steady arrival has been overshadowed by expectation of immediate. And yet, the old wisdom remains relevant. The gentle roads remind us that reliability matters more than haste. That endurance requires rest. That connection thrives when it respects human limits. In the ancient world, communication was designed to endure storms, seasons, and generations. It did not panic when delayed. It adapted. It trusted process. These systems understood something essential about time. Time was not something to defeat, but something to move with. Messages did not race the sun. They followed it. This perspective shaped societies. Decisions were thoughtful. Governance was measured. Change arrived slowly, but it arrived with stability. The roads themselves reflected this philosophy. They curved with the land. They avoided extremes. They endured because they cooperated rather than conquered. In a world increasingly defined by speed, these gentle roads offer a quiet alternative. They invite reflection. They suggest that connection does not need to be instant to be meaningful, that understanding deepens when information is allowed to travel at a human pace. As we look back across centuries of communication, the achievements of ancient postal routes appear less like primitive beginnings and more like enduring foundations. They taught humanity how to organize distance, how to trust strangers, how to share responsibility, how to listen as well as speak. Most importantly, they taught that the strongest networks are those built with care. The couriers who rode these roads did not seek recognition. The stations that supported them did not demand attention. The systems they sustained did not boast of their power. They simply worked, quietly, reliably, holding the world together one message at a time. As night settles over the imagined landscapes of ancient Persia, Rome, and China, the roads lie still, yet their influence stretches forward through time, woven into every letter sent, every signal transmitted, every message shared. The gentle journey continues, not on stone paths, but through shared understanding. And perhaps, as we rest and listen to these echoes of the past, we can carry forward a small piece of their wisdom, to move steadily, to communicate thoughtfully, to remember that even the longest journeys are made not by rushing, but by taking one calm step at a time. As the final roads fade into the distance, and the last messenger rests beneath a quiet sky, the journey slowly comes to an end. The ancient paths we followed tonight no longer echo with hoofbeats or footsteps. Their stones have weathered, their stations have fallen silent. Yet their purpose remains. Every message sent today, every letter, signal, or whispered word carries a trace of those early journeys. The patience, the trust, the understanding that connection is built not through speed, but through care. If sleep has already found you, may it be deep and peaceful. If you are still listening, allow these final moments to settle gently, like dusk over an old road. There is nothing more to do, nowhere else to go. Just rest. Thank you for spending this quiet time with Go to Sleep, historian. May your night be calm, your rest unbroken, and your dreams guided by gentle journeys. Good night.